Hey guys, it's Will, revolutionarylifestyledesign.com, talking to you today about the hunter mentality, why it's so important for you and your business. And what I mean by hunter mentality is basically thinking of yourself as a hunter. If we go back to prior to the industrial and the agricultural revolution, we lived in these small hunter-gatherer nomadic tribes for the bulk of human existence, for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, going back to when we were, evolved out of apes. This is how we'd been living for a very long time. And within those tribes, it would be, a group of 20 or 30 or maybe 50 people. The strong, resourceful, usually males, would go out and hunt for food and furs and wood to build shelters and all these other things. Basically, the resources for the tribe, food and shelter, as well as protecting the tribe from predators like lions and tigers, as well as from other tribes who could be potentially dangerous to that tribe. And then there were usually the women, and some of the other males would stay behind, and they would take to cooking the food, taking care of the shelter, raising the children, taking care of the sick and the elderly. And of course, I'm sure some women came on the hunt, but in general, it was the guys, and that's how we lived for the vast majority of human evolution until about 10,000 years ago, in the agricultural revolution, where we invented agriculture. And because of that, we didn't have to live these nomadic lives chasing the sun and chasing the animals and the seasons where there was fresh fruit and vegetables and all that stuff. We could actually live in we could live through these winters. We could live in stabilized societies because of agriculture, because of grains and rice and things like that. And for the first time, we were able to create an abundance and a surplus of food. And out of that grew these stable, large cities and societies that we all now live in. But all of our programming is still the same as that primitive human, because 10,000 years is not a long time in the human timeline. It's very short. We're still running primarily on those instincts. And so all that happened is we went from hunting in a jungle for resources, which was food and wood for shelter and furs and stuff like that, to hunting in a concrete jungle for resources. And the resources is money, which gives us food, shelter, healthcare, all these other things. Except we're not really hunting in tribes anymore. Okay, we're technically in these tribes in the country that we live in, opposing ourselves to these other vast entities, but this is primarily exists within people's heads. Ultimately, the real hunting takes place in whatever city you're living in, unless you've got an online business like I do, and it's literally the same thing. It's a concrete jungle, except you're not running around with your shirt off and your spear sharpened, because you can't do that. You'd probably end up in jail. But metaphorically, you're still doing the same thing. So the reason the hunter mentality is so important for any guy, whether you're starting your business, whether you're already successful, is because there is no way out. Let me say that again. There's no way out. No way out. The game of life doesn't stop. You can't sit on the sidelines. It doesn't stop till the body drops. And there's no way to sit on the sidelines. If you think you're sitting on the sidelines, all you're doing is losing. It's the same thing with the hunting concept. there is no way out of the idea that food and shelter needs to be hunted. So you can either go out and hunt it for yourself in a business, okay? You can become a sub hunter for someone else as a salesman. Sales guys are the only guys with jobs that are hunters, in my opinion, which is what I did. Hated it, but learned a tremendous amount. Learned, the most marketable skill in the world, which I think is sales. And you get a small portion off of another hunter's plate, but you get more than the average person does, who's staying at home, tending the nest, so to speak. And that's most people with jobs. They're just eating off, this predetermined amount from a hunter's plate or from a massive hunter, like they're working for a Fortune 500 company, and they just get their predetermined amount of table scraps. But ultimately, their ability to eat and have resources is determined by that company and the owner of that company and the executives that those guys have working for them. If that Fortune 500 company goes out of business, which happens all the time, those people no longer can eat. They're not, just because you have a job does not mean you're removed from the need to go hunt for resources. You're just dependent on other people being able to go and get those for you. And you're also dependent on those people continuing to employ you, as opposed to outsourcing your job to a robot or outsourcing your job to the Philippines, which has happened to millions of people, will continue to happen to many people. So, even when you're working a job, you are not out of the hunting system. And you have two inherent risks with that job. Is one, the business could go under and you don't have control over that. And two, you could get fired. At least with your own business, you can't get fired. With sales, as a sub hunter, and you're going out, you've got one main hunter and you're going out in a pack with a bunch of these other guys on the sales floor, you earn a bit more and you have a bit more control over your income, which is important. But ultimately, it comes down to there's no way out of the hunter mentality. Okay, there is no way out. You either have to hunt or you either have to get someone to hunt for you. Problem is, it's real hard to live well with someone else hunting for you, because they're going to give you the bare minimum, and your job is always at stake if they're unhappy with you. And the problem is, if you're in your own business and you haven't recognized this, this is something in the last month I've been drilling into my clients' heads, because I've got a couple guys who are not going as hard as they should be on their outbound sales. I work with all types of guys. I work with guys who I work with a guy who owns a bank. I work with guys who are very successful in the startup community. I also work with guys who are engineers, architects, personal trainers, a vast array of people. But if you're running a service business, a high ticket service business, you're a hunter. So if you're not going out and getting resources, the business is going to fail. That's a fact. And it is a net sum game. I mean, my business technically would be a net sum game. If you're buying coaching with me, you're probably not buying with someone else, but the amount of people I'm able to reach and the breadth of the reach is almost makes it seem like it's indirect. Competition is not a huge factor for me. I'm not really looking at the competition too much. I'm just focusing on what I'm doing. But if I was selling real estate in Toronto, where I came from, it's a very even 10x more clear and apparent net sum game. I either get that deal in the house or another agent gets it. And I probably know the agent's name because he's probably snaked 3 or 4 deals from me before. And if he keeps snaking deals from me, I go bankrupt. That's what it's like in any of these service businesses. Okay. So that's so important to understand. Like, you know, I've got a client who's an engineer or a personal trainer, or an architect, and within that city there's, you know, 500 like good building companies that build the required amount of new homes for him to be able to get his, you know, for those clients to be a fit. A client set of fit is a client that's going to be able to give him 10K to 30K a year. And once he gets a client in his funnel and he's working with him, the clients are very sticky because he does a good job, and people aren't apt to replace their designer, their architect. But of those, let's say 500 builders in his state, okay, probably 50 of them right now are unhappy or like not being serviced well enough by their current architect or designer. And that's why we need to reach out to all those companies to see which of them we can take away from somebody else. It's literally because in those industries, they're almost always working with someone else. So literally there's like 500 hunting grounds, okay, scattered throughout that state. And you have to go out in your car and drive around just the same as if you're going out shirtless with a sharpened spear to go take those resources. Because right now somebody else is eating the food off your table. Some other architect or some other designer is literally eating the food off your table. If they were able to do the same to you, if they were able to come around to your clients and start hitting up your clients and your clients' offices and be able to peel a couple of those clients away off you, they just took half the income out of your plate. If they're able to peel the other ones off, they just took all your income. You're done. You know, it is a net sum game. It's ugly. Okay. So if you're struggling to go out and do your outbound, or you're struggling to get on the phone and do your outbound, or you're struggling to do what I do, which is content marketing, you know, if 100,000, if I get 100,000 views or 200,000 views a month, I've just replaced, that's basically 200,000 cold calls a month. I just replaced what I was doing in sales with the technology of the internet and being able to reach you guys and being able to offer value. So ultimately you decide, hey, I'd like to do coaching or pick up a product from Will. It's the same thing. I'm still doing outbound. I'm doing outbound right now. And part of why I made such a drive to build this business was I wanted to get off the fucking phones and having to work a sales job. And I didn't want to go into another business where I was doing the same thing. I could have, but I wanted to try and see if I could do this kind of a business, which I was able to do. But if you are in that business, okay, you have to go out and hunt. There is no way around it, because people are they're literally eating your lunch right now. Like your competitors are eating your fucking lunch right now. They're eating your food. They're eating your family's food. It is a net sum game, okay? They're taking your money, right? But when you open your mind up and say like, hey man, let me look at my state as a hunting ground. How many businesses are there available for me to go after if you're doing B2B? If you're doing B2C, if you're a personal trainer, like everyone's a potential client, except even in that, you're still gonna wanna be like, okay, if you're going door to door, you go to the wealthy neighborhoods and see who's gonna buy your $500 to $1,000 package. That's what I've got one of my young clients doing. Door to door, selling personal training. Closed 2 big deals last month. Very proud of him because he's going out there and hunting. And none of his competitors are doing it because they're fucking pussies. None of them are doing it. With my architect client, none of his competitors are doing that kind of an outbound because they're scared. They're not willing to hunt. Most guys aren't willing to hunt. Like America was built by guys who were willing to do that thing. They were willing to come over on a ship, not know anything about the country, with 5 kids, build a log cabin house, literally hunt for their food, be able to farm it and all these other risks and stuff. And people died on the way over. Okay. But guys have gotten soft. I was soft. I'm still not as hard as I was when I was in Toronto, just banging the phone all day. But I got really hard at that point to be able to do it. So if you can't pay for marketing right now, you've got to be out there. But even if you're, you can afford to be marketing, I still think outbound is awesome for most businesses, for a lot of businesses. And like if you've transitioned to fully online, you still should be going at it with the content marketing and the ads and all that stuff, to get after your hunt. So I'm telling my clients to think of their state as their hunting grounds. And let's say there's 500 businesses that apply to, 500 new home builders if you're an architect or whatever. Like that's your hunt now, okay? And think of it like GTA 5, okay? And I'm not saying to become a sociopath or anything. Obviously, it's a video game and it's fun and there's no consequences and it's, like in real life, obviously tons of ethical, moral consequences for hurting people, whatever. But I'm saying the mentality of like, okay, you're playing Grand Theft Auto, it's this sandbox, right? And you can just hop around, you can just get in your car and hop around. Like in Grand Theft Auto, you do these little missions. It's like, okay, go over here and collect some money from this guy. Go over here and beat this guy up. Go over here and do this thing. And you get like money and you can just drive around the city and there's like a million different little missions and submissions for you to do, for you to be able to get money and like, okay, acquire territory over here. I've got a home over here. It's the same thing with selling for your business. You're like, okay, I got that new home builder, or I got that, area for real estate. I've got a presence over here. I got another new home builder over here, or I got another new home builder in this city. I've got, and you're just literally like rolling around in your car being like, the world is a fucking ATM. The world is an ATM. I can get money from anybody if I just have the fucking balls to go out and hunt and get my shirt off and sharpen my spear and fucking get loose and go get that money. And if I'm willing to be, politely kicked out of somebody's office, okay? If I don't do that, I fucking starve. If I don't go out and hunt, I starve, okay? Too many guys are coasting on the previous clients that they had, okay? And then they're surprised when they lose a client and boom, 25-30% of your income's gone, okay? Because they're focused on farming. Farming is great, I put my current clients before my new clients, always. That's my first priorities to my current clients. And that's something a lot of sales guys miss. A lot of sales guys are bad farmers. A lot of good sales guys are bad farmers. But I also make a focus on new clients. And for you guys especially, you've got to be hunting all the time. It doesn't stop. Like, does the hunt stop for the like primitive tribal groups in Africa or Papua New Guinea or wherever they are? Like, no, they've got to literally go hunt for their food. It's the same with you and your business, which is why you want to be like super aggressive about it, not in like getting in front of people and harassing them like aggressively, but I mean like aggressively going after territories and aggressively going after resources and clients and other people are eating your lunch right now, dude. If you're not out there hunting, other people are taking literally resources off your table. Like people's money is always going somewhere, even if like, it's not going to a competitor, it's still going to like potato chips or, something else. Okay. But it's an ATM out there if you're willing to go get it and you're willing to go sell your services. You might not always have, like if you're selling personal training, there's a good chance that like that person is new to personal training. They don't have a trainer already. Like you might have to sell them on the entirety of the concept. And you might not have been in direct competition with another personal trainer, but you're still in direct competition with, other things, right? Or other people, because their money's going somewhere. And like, if you can't go out and hunt, you're gonna starve. And I guess I just wanted to hammer home the idea that like nothing has changed. You're that primitive tribesman with your shirt off, with the spear, running around. And if you don't do well at that, you and your family starve. If you do really well, you can have an abundance of things. You can have a comfortable life. You can start to make your money work for you by reinvesting in the business and all these other things. But you have to have that mentality, and that will be the thing that will get you over doing outbound sales. Like, just drill that into your head. Like, there is no sitting on the sidelines. If I don't hunt, I don't eat. If I don't hunt, my competitors eat my lunch. If I don't hunt, my competitors literally keep taking my business, and life keeps fucking me, and I just keep taking it. Okay? If I'm not willing to be out there hunting. Okay? It's impossible for it to end well for me. I have to be able to overcome the fear, because if I actually want to be successful and I want to be comfortable, I have to absorb that mentality. I have to think about myself in this like free roam sandbox. The world is a fucking ATM. The pay price to action is courage. The pay price to action is doing that in spite of anxiety, in spite of fear, in spite of your reservations, in spite of feeling like lack of self-esteem, in spite of feeling like, who am I to go into somebody else's office and ask for them for money, especially if they're more successful than me. That's the pay price to action. That's what most of your competitors aren't doing, or they're not doing it as well as they could be. And that's what's going to get you ahead and winning and into abundance and out of fucking survival and into thrival mode, which is where you want to be going. This applies to you if you're new to business. It applies to you if you're doing 7 figures. It applies to you if you're doing 8 figures and you fell off. Ultimately, like, recognize just the kind of the raw, ugly, like unfiltered truth behind, you know, what we see in our reality. By the way, like, I don't like that that's the reality. I wish it was a different world. I wish the world, there's a lot of problems with our world. Let's say that it doesn't bring me great joy to be able to bring you this kind of an information, but it does bring me joy in the sense of, like, if you can truly internalize this, you can become a fucking soldier. If you can become a hunter, if you can wake up every day at least trying to fight, you know, your life is going to get so much better, and your life is going to get so much easier. That's the other thing. Like, my life is way easier right now at 37 than it was at 27 when I was making 100 calls a day in Toronto, selling my face off. And I don't need it to be, because I'm tougher than like when you need life to be easy, it's really tough. But then when you get really tough, life gets easy and you have other problems. Your problems become staying disciplined despite being rich, fighting off getting too comfortable, fighting off laziness, being able to find something else that inspires you. I'm gonna have another video of that coming out this year too on rich guy problems. But you've got to internalize that mentality. It's gonna make an entire, like, massive mindset shift for you. One of the biggest ones. Like, just look at the world as an ATM. Look at it as a free roaming sandbox video game. You're a hunter, okay? Most of your competitors don't know this, by the way, and they're not out there protecting their clients. They're not out there aggressively getting after other clients. They don't feel a sense of urgency, enough of a sense of urgency. Most people are not willing to make the sacrifices to be successful, so they're always going to struggle financially, because it's a cold fucking concrete jungle out there. I don't like it any more than you do, but you know what I hate even more was being at the bottom of that thing and having no money and working in call centers and fucking surviving off peanut butter and chocolate milk, and at one point eating Cheerios with water in it. Okay, I had no money for milk, okay, or living off protein powder and rice. Like, that's the reality. Unless you've got rich parents, or you've got people that are going to help you, or you've got a rich girlfriend or whatever. There's just nothing fun about being poor. Next to being sick and unhealthy, it's the worst thing in the world, poverty. So you want to go to the total opposite end of that spectrum and be out there, shirt off, dude, spear out, ready to stick it in anything that looks like food, ready to take that shit from your competitors. Because it's a net sum game, dude. That money's going somewhere else, you know? So I hope that makes sense to you. And, you know, if you need help with this, man, revolutionarylifestylezone.com/coaching. If you are a good fit for the program, you can see everything on the sales page. And if you are, I'd love to work with you. But either way, man, I hope this message finds you well. I hope you're doing well this year. And much love to you. All the best in your personal development journey.